Well, I hope you've taken some time to read through Psalm 128. It's the 9th Ascent Psalm as we've been working through them. And as I read it, the priestly blessing in Numbers came to mind. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. You know, this idea of blessing is one that we often misunderstand. Really, it's a deep peace and joy that comes not from the circumstances in life, but through a right relationship with God, a right walk with God. You think about blessing, it's an important aspect of the biblical narrative. And so God blessed Adam and Eve in the garden. He blessed, he really said he would bless the whole world through Abraham and his offspring. God blessed the 12 family units of Israel in a special way. In Deuteronomy, we know that blessing is framed by obedience to God and walking his way. And of course, in Matthew 5, when Jesus preaches, he frames this idea of blessing as being part of a kingdom living framework, whereas we live his way, the way of Jesus, will be blessed. And so this is a wisdom psalm, Psalm 128. It talks about the promise, what the blessing can look like, and then he gives the promise again, and then he expands the blessing in a form of benediction. So turn there and we'll take a look at it, Psalm 128. And it starts with this idea of fearing and obedience and blessing. As I turn to Psalm 128, I wonder how you define blessing in your life. I wonder how you frame it and think about it. Is it rooted in circumstances, or is it rooted in a deep inner peace and joy? So that would be a good question to ask yourself as we think of Psalm 128. So I'll read it. Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to him. So this is an important framework. It's the circle of blessing. When we stay inside God's ways, when we walk within this context of what life looks like, there is blessing. And when we get outside of this circle of blessing, then there are consequences. Our relationships break down. Things don't go the way they should. And so it's this idea that as we obey, God blesses. And that doesn't mean everything goes perfectly well. That doesn't mean life is exactly the way we want it. But in a general trajectory, there is blessing as we obey God. So we see an example of blessing. He says, "You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours." And this is almost a reverse of the curse. Remember the curse? They sweat and they toil, and it's hard. Well, the blessing here is that you will work hard, but you will enjoy the fruit of your labor. You keep going on, this idea of fruitfulness continues. Verse 3, your wife will be like a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be like olive shoots around your table. I like that image. Fruit of the vine comes seasonally, quick and fast every year. And then the idea of olive shoots and olive oil is just a long reach, a long obedience in the same direction. And when we do that, we experience these kinds of blessings. And so the idea of gathering around the table with people we love as a place of fruitfulness and family is a good thing. Not exclusive to family, but it is a good thing. And then the blessing expands, verse 5. May the Lord bless you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all your days of your life. And so the blessing expands outward. Isn't that true? When we follow Christ, when we go God's way, a blessing expands not only to us, but it expands outward into other people, other places that we touch. And so it goes from Zion to Jerusalem, and then all the days of your life, that there's this long obedience, as Eugene Peterson says, a long obedience in the same direction of blessing and deep contentment and joy that can only come from God. And then he ends his benediction. He says, may you live to see your children's children. Peace be on Israel. This idea that may your life be full and rich and full of joy all the way through. And so I began with this question for you at the beginning of the psalm, is how do you frame blessing in your life? Is it rooted in situational joy, or is it rooted in obedience and a deep joy? And this is the promise of this psalm, not that life will be perfect and easy and always just right, but that as we follow God, as we move through life, as we live His way, as we live as Christ would want us to live, there is blessing. There is a deep joy. So I hope you evaluate your life and your walk in this framework of God's blessing. He loves us, cares about us. He wants us to follow Him. He wants us to live His way in obedience and experience that kind of blessing. Psalm 128, read it. I hope you enjoy it.